Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm a comic artist and film enthusiast. I am currently drawing some art. I mean, not currently, but I'm going to be drawing some art today. I want to teach you about how to pencil a comic book page. Okay, so we have our layouts here. We have it all set out. It's not super exciting to look at in terms of art itself, but it is, it's obviously layouts, so it's not supposed to be super exciting. It's supposed to get the idea of what it could be. And that I think is a good version of what this is. I will say, most of my layouts are not this detailed. That even down to how like this having teeth is more detailed than most of my layouts would generally be. So I'm going to move this layer down under our lines here because our panel borders are going to remain the same. Then I'm going to bring the opacity down so that it's pretty light. We want it to be just the vague idea of what we're looking at here. Make a new layer and we are off to the races. So I'm just going to use sketching. Sometimes I sketch in ink or, digital ink. Sometimes I sketch with the Procreate pencil, or every once in a while I'll use this 6B, but generally it's just the Procreate classic pencil. Use whatever you want. That's a thing that I could go on for a long time, but tools are what you make of them, what you use them for. Tools don't necessarily matter to an extent. Obviously, like when you get into the discussion of AI, that's a completely different thing. But for like digital tools, things that are supposed to be emulating physical hand and paper, the way that you use them, if it's the same as drawing, I don't really care what the tool is. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you make good art. Again, not endorsing AI, can't be clearer about that. So we're going to come in and start doing some sketches. I'm going to start with this right here. You don't have to work from left to right. You don't have to work in the order of reading. I recommend it. The only reason I do that is because I just generally recommend, like, whatever book you're working on, start from page 1 and go to page whatever the end page is, 24, 48, however long your book is supposed to be. I recommend doing that because you're going to have characters take on damage and you want to make sure that it's chronologically correct. You're going to develop your art style as you go a little bit. Obviously, it shouldn't, be a completely different thing from beginning to end, but it is going to develop a little bit. And I think if you don't start from the beginning and work chronologically, or pretty much chronologically, it can be a little tough and it can be a little weird and mismatched when you get to the end of the book. But like I was saying, I could start with this panel, I could start with this middle one. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to start with this one just because I think it's a good way to kind of set the scene. And it is the first panel, and usually I work that way. So I come in here, and the nice thing about pencils is it's just kind of fleshing out what you already have. Pencils are fun. I like penciling books, especially if I'm going to be the one inking, because I can leave a lot of detail work for the ink because I know what I'm looking for. So in this case, I'm just trying to get shapes more than anything, trying to flesh out what it is that I'm looking for with each of these characters. This guy's supposed to be pretty physically imposing, so I want him to look pretty angular. That's a thing I'm going to go for here, I think. Not entirely, but a little more angular than circular and round, I think. Then we're going to come in here, and you'll notice I'm not at all following the lines of my layouts. I'm getting the general sense from the layouts, and I'm making the characters here. This is really where a lot of the art happens. Penciling and inking seem like they would be very similar to each other, but I think they're fundamentally different art styles, and both equally important. Penciling is a great place to get some of the details, try to get your shapes right, get your motion and your energy. Inking is when you refine those things. That's when you take it and make it final and add those kind of line weights and structure and things that you're not necessarily thinking about in the pencil stage. So I like these spikes here. I think those are a fun add. I'm going to keep those in. And then I'm going to throw some kind of texturing idea in here. For me, again, because I'm going to be inking my own work, this can mean, hey, put texture here. It doesn't have to be that exact texture, although I do like the way that one came out. If you're working with an inker, you have to be a lot more specific. So this would just be kind of your first round of pencils. You might not even do this round of pencils. And then you would basically do what I'm going to do in inks as your final pencils. And then you would send that over to your inker and they would get it done in their own way. But because I'm kind of working for myself, I can leave little notes for myself in the pencil stage. And if you're close with your inker, even if it's not you, maybe you can develop a backhand that says, like a lot of artists, an interesting thing we'll actually use right here. We'll do in their pencils, they'll have, hold on, could have timed that better. They'll have little X's like that. So it'll just be an X here, an X here, something like that. And what that means is when you come in and do the inks, you'll fill that in with black. But right now it's just easier in the pencil. It doesn't really make sense to do full fill in with the pencils. And that's your little note to the inker or your future self. Hey, I'm gonna need some heavy blacks here. Pretty cool stuff. It's an interesting little technique, and you'll see it a lot in pretty much every professional penciler and inker. That's a common shorthand for fill black here. So I like where he's coming from. I think I'm liking the idea of him being a little more in shadow, so I might throw in, you see I'm using that there, I might throw in, and actually, penciling's a lot of editing. That's basically what you're doing. I'm gonna change this shadow here because I didn't like, it was inconsistent with the way the light was going. Speaking of which, you'll think about this a lot more in the coloring stage, but in the penciling stage, you do have to think about lighting. Where's your light coming from? In this case, I'm having kind of a light coming from this sort of area behind the bar, maybe up here a little bit, but obviously that's not in frame. So I'm gonna have heavy blacks here. It's gonna be pretty shadowy. It's a bar, it's kind of a dive bar, so it's gonna be a pretty shadowy area. Feeling good about him. And then this guy, call him Frog Boxer. He's got a very different shape. So penciling, when you're, obviously I already had that one pretty much in there, but penciling is also where you're finding the shape of your character in each moment. So in this case, I want him to kind of be hunched over. I like that. Those bulgy eyes are a pretty key, pivotal part of his character. There's the design, and I like them. They make me happy. He's got these long, kind of spindly arms, so we're gonna get those in. Not spindly, but certainly not shredded. Just kind of juiced. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. And then, so yeah, we're just gonna bring that there. And then we've got these big old gloves that are a part of his, I don't know, costume, character design, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm gonna give him sort of a rocks glass here because he seems like a whiskey man. Frog, a whiskey frog. But he's a little bougie, so we'll give him a little of that. Now, if you are the penciler for not your comic, the script is gonna detail a lot of what's gonna be in here. You get to add a little fun character moments and details in the way that you draw them, but essentially you are there to make the script reality. That's why it's fun to be the writer and artist, because it can be your script and it can be your reality. There we go. All right, getting that in play here. Don't forget his other arm. And that can just be kind of going off frame or even kind of hidden back here, because it's gonna be, it would technically be like there, but obviously we can't see it through his body because that would be unhinged. There we go. All right, coming in here. He's got just a little tush, a little frog tush, loving that. I'm gonna give him just like a regular classic bar stool kind of thing here. So then a lot of this is gonna be, maybe come in and refine a lot of that. Like I said, I pencil pretty rough, but I'm still getting general lines, getting the feel for each character, each moment. I like that. I don't want to define his back too much, but I do know that he's gonna have some kind of speckly bits there. He is still a frog. And then we're gonna come in here on that glove, match the shading that we did with this guy here, which, by the way, just realized that's gonna need a little shading too, that part of the ear. That looks much better. Might even come in and, as a bald man myself, I know that you get some of those kind of skin wrinkles back there, so I might go in and get some of those. This is all good. There we go. Okay, I feel good about that so far. Coming in here, this is where you get to do some of those shorts and cloth lines, which are fun. And by fun, I mean kind of the worst thing to do until you know how to do them. Then I'm gonna throw more of those classic X's because it's gonna be under the bar and I want that to be pretty dark. And I think we are good on that one. Normally, and you could still come in and do some detailing here, I would go in and, let's say, give some bottles or glasses or something to kind of flesh out the scene. And you could still, I think it would still be worth, I'm probably gonna throw a little something in there, but I can see in my layouts here, I am gonna have a text bubble coming through here, so a lot of that detail will get covered up, so there's kind of no point in drawing it as long as I can kind of flesh out around it. So I may come in here, give some glassware, maybe a couple of bottles, I don't know. Bars are annoying to draw. I've drawn several bars and they're extremely frustrating because it's a lot of little tiny detail things that don't really matter, but they do provide an ambiance. It's really frustrating. So there we go. I've got the general idea. When I come in and do the inks, I may change some of that. Sometimes I like to use straight lines, so there's this tool in Procreate where you can just kind of draw like that. Press the little center button here on this console and it'll let you have a straight line. I don't think, just for the style that I'm kind of going for, it's a little bit more cartoony, this comic itself, so I think I want to keep it that way and not necessarily do straight lines and really harsh lines. I think I want to avoid that. And then I want to texture some portion of this, but I'm not sure that I'm going to. I was going to add some texture down here, but I don't know that I want to do that just yet. Wow, Drawing John, that's a really good point you made. I assume I'm recording this before I do any of the drawing. Before we keep on with the video, I just want to take a second and let you know that this video is only made possible by people like you. That's right. Assuming you're one of my Patreon members and or a human being watching this video. We're gonna get to it. The point is that I don't have brand sponsorships. I'm not big enough to be monetized on YouTube at the moment. And so the only way that I'm able to do this is through people that support my Patreon, which is patreon.com/JohnBonjour. I would really appreciate if these videos are teaching you something, if they mean something to you, if you want to see what's going on with my art in general, that's the place to do it. Patreon.com/JohnBonjour. It can be as low as $1 a month. If you have a little extra income and my art means something to you, I would really appreciate your support. Otherwise, please read my comic Edge of Border Town on johnbonart.com. It is 100% free and it always will be. I'm putting out new pages every week. Chapter 4 is going on right now, which is huge and awesome and great. Chapter 5 is going to be crazy. I can't wait to show you guys what I'm working on. Like I said, this video is brought to you by you, basically. So thank you for you and for being you. Back to the video. So there's that panel completely penciled, feeling really good about that one. I'm gonna come in, I might do this one so that I get the idea of his face, and then I'm gonna do maybe this one. And then I'm gonna go through several of these. I'll probably skip penciling this one and this one just because they're gonna be pretty simple panels, and then I might have a couple of things to say about this. So we're gonna pick it up because that last recording was like 10 minutes, so I need to pick up the pace a little bit. Keeping in mind, this guy is pretty angular, so I actually have not designed him at all, but I'm doing that on the fly. He's gonna be pretty easy, and his design doesn't matter because it's not technically part of an actual comic. So who knows, maybe it will be at some point, but at the moment, he's just kind of a guy. Give him those big eyebrows, you know how he likes them. Give him some angry marks here. Penciling faces is always fun because it's not always fun. That was 100% a lie, but it is interesting because you get to kind of add, that's where most of the character and the acting comes in. I'm gonna give him a pretty broken nose here. It's been broken several times. He seems like a bar brawl kind of fella. But yeah, penciling faces is interesting because it's one of those things that you can, if you don't do it right, if you don't do it consistently, it can be kind of bad, pretty bad actually for your comic. So you kind of have to figure out what your character looks like, what his face is. Actually, don't like that eye. I'm gonna give him, this is where you can put all those character design tools that I gave you in another video, another 2 videos actually. Put those to use. Give him some kind of saggy, weird eyes. That seems right. He's an older fella, so the more wrinkles you give, I'm sure you already know this, but the more wrinkles you give on any person's face, the older they look. That is, you know, multiplied by 2 or 3 maybe when drawing women. Don't know why, it just kind of is what it is. Maybe it's a cultural perception that's not healthy. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, men are wrinklier as just by nature. I'm not sure what it is. Point being, it's just kind of a known rule that the more wrinkles you give, the more old a character looks, especially in women. So we're gonna, although I do think I need him to be older, kind of biker gang guy. I want to give him something interesting though, something that you wouldn't normally see. So, oh yeah, you know what we're gonna do. Which of these eyes do I not like as much? I don't like this one as much. I'm gonna give him Eye patch. Why? Eye patches are fun. Eye patches are fun, and he seems like he might have one, so why not? Who knows? Maybe I'll go in and give some kind of design on the eye patch. Maybe not, but I've got the idea of it there. Drawn so many faces. And you know, this guy's gonna be real fun. We're gonna give him some real strong stash energy. Because why not? No reason he couldn't. That chin is huge, because I give him a beard on here. See, this is what you're doing when you don't design your characters. Should I get rid of the beard, or should I keep the beard and the stash? I'm gonna get rid of the beard, because it's funnier to have the stash. So here we go. Dropping that, and then we're just gonna give him some just kind of generic face structure there with stash. Yeah, that's extremely good. Okay. So that's a huge chin if he doesn't have a beard. Yelling characters, all the muscles and bits, they strain and stretch, so never forget that. That's important. When you're penciling is when you get all that kind of detail in. You get the structure, the movement of the face, all that stuff. That's where it all comes in. And kind of a butt chin, that's fun. So he's not, I'm gonna give him some irises, some eye. He's not quite loud enough in this image. I know that doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it does. I'm gonna make him more aggressive. Tongue is also a fun way to kind of display how loud they're being, how aggressive they are, because the higher it is, the more it seems to be moving. It's all good. Again, that chin is killing me. I don't know why. The chin's huge. All right, and the way that I've sketched it out here, his neck would kind of come down and then his shoulder would come down there. I find that boring, so I'm gonna bring his shoulder up because it's more interesting, something to do, something to change it up. And I think it's funnier if his shoulder's up like he's so mad about it that it's like his shoulders are at his ears. I think I gave him, you gotta keep your details consistent. Yeah, he's got a collar. Yeah, you know what we're gonna do? Throw in like an accusatory finger. I think that'd be funny. Most of what I draw is just because I think it would be funny, to be entirely honest with you. I like this guy. He speaks to me. He's a good fella. Messing with a couple of proportionary things. Proportional? I don't know what the word is. He doesn't seem like he would regularly keep up with shaving, so we're gonna adjust that a little bit. I don't know. It's all about, penciling's all about playing around, experimenting with stuff until you get what feels right to you, which is not a helpful thing. I also think his head's too big. I'm gonna kind of just bump it down slightly, even. Yeah, that feels good. But I do want him to be pretty close in, so I'm gonna push that. Like I said, tools, they're there to help you, except AI. AI is garbage and it's nothing. All right, so we got that panel penciled. I feel pretty good about that. I'll probably adjust it. Actually, you know what? I just noticed something feels wrong about this. I was trying to figure it out. I think this top portion of the head is actually too far over. Oh, that's much better. I'll probably adjust some of this in the inking stage, but we can deal with that later. He's not supposed to be like full aggression either. He's supposed to be loud, but he's not supposed to, like, if he was doing a full yell, I would mess with the perspective a little bit more, and have his head kind of like coming out. He would be leaning forward a little more, but he's smack talking right now. And I think about, I don't even know what the text is for this page yet, but I think about beats. So he says the thing, Frog goes, huh, what'd you say? And then he says it, but he's like confident and more sure. Then there's a pause moment. Frog punches the hell out of him, and then he slams into I don't know what yet. All right, so here we go. We're gonna jump into this panel real quick. This is where you get to keep. Oh yeah, so we're breaking, I was gonna talk to you guys about this. We're breaking the panel here, which means my brain doesn't work this well. So I'm gonna lower the opacity of those as well. So we're breaking the panel here. Keep what you already have in terms of, yeah, there we go. Keep what you already have in terms of proportions and just general vibe of character. Punches are fun. Yeah, I could do a whole thing on fight scenes. I could make so many videos on this if you wanted me to. Punches are interesting because you have to have the punch itself, which has got this kind of motion line here, right? And then you have to have the reaction, which has got this motion line. And if those don't react to each other, like let's say the punch motion is this and you have him, like, okay, let's say you have him reacting like he got punched this way. That doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. But him reacting like he got punched this way, the whole equal and opposite reaction thing kind of applies to drawing a comic and drawing a fight scene. Again, a thing that I should probably just make a video on because that probably did not make a lick of sense. Give him that weird broken nose. This is good. Pencil this one more like I would normally pencil a page in general. All right, we're gonna keep his angular form here. Just the theme of this guy is angles. And then for this, I'm gonna come in, just draw two kind of circles first, and then kind of cone him out for the spikes. Don't know if that's the correct way to do it, but it's certainly the way I do it. Give him ears. Don't forget ears. Ears are important. That's how you hear people. That's how you're hearing me. If you can't hear me, I've either done something audio wrong or you're reading the subtitles, and they're probably not great because I didn't make them, so I don't know what I'm saying. Point being, we've got this guy here. I'm gonna flare out his jacket a little bit. Keep his aggressive kind of, you gotta make sure you have a little crossover there. That'll be nice. Going real loose with these pencils, but it's okay because I'm gonna be inking it. I'm gonna give him some, those are his fingers, sure. There's a hand, kinda. Classic John, I forgot I was recording a video, got too stuck in the moment, baby. All right, there we go. And again, you wanna break the panels in a way that's gonna lead your reader to the next panel and not away from that panel, like I mentioned in the last video. So we've got our lines of motion here. This is an interesting one because I'm kind of fighting space with both of these characters, so who knows exactly how this is gonna go, but probably fine. Give him his shirt. His shirt's gonna kind of turn into belt and darkness. Other glove. He's got like kind of a nervous look. I don't want him to have a nervous look. So we're gonna adjust the eye there. Yeah, that's much better. Give him a black eye because that's funny. Maybe he just got into a fight, who knows. And then his other leg's gonna be coming down here. Give him his little flipper thing there. Yeah, that's a good panel, I like it. Again, a thing that makes sense to me, hopefully will to you once we do inking. But this is how I would normally pencil, to be honest. It's not as detailed as you would think it would be, but that's just because I'll be doing the inking. Okay, as you can see, I am now working on the last panel here. So I'm gonna work on a little bit of foreshortening, getting those legs in. I wanted to just take a second and talk about motion in comics. This is a really good place to do that. Penciling is where you get most of that. Motion in comics is all about how you draw the figure, pretty much. Motion for people, for animals, for pretty much anything. It's all in how you draw it. So if you have somebody, I'm just gonna do really simple. If you have, let's say, just walking, just a simple walk, that's not a lot of motion, and it's not supposed to be. So if you have a character that's supposed to be running, don't make it look like this. It should be, map it out. It should be something more like this. It's all about how far you stretch the figure. So there's a guy running, right? And if you need somebody falling, like let's say if I wanted to do this, he's supposed to be flying through the sky back to whatever, back to hit whatever it is that he's gonna be hitting. So if I wanted to do that, even if I get some foreshortening on the arms, having him be like that would be pretty boring. It would be like, okay, sure. Having him folded up and all crunched like this is way more interesting and it's way funnier. If you really want to get into how to do visual gags, I highly recommend just check out like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin movies. That is the ultimate way to get physical comedy and physical, just not even comedy, but physical acting down, because the artist is essentially the actor. If you think about it in terms of a movie, if a comic book is a movie, the artist is the actor. You have to make all the emotion, you have to make all the drama and all the physical motion. That's what the actor does. The writer creates the story, and obviously if you do all of those, you're the director and the writer and the actor, and it's a lot of work and it's extremely stressful. Please read my comic book. But you just got to remember, make sure that you have that motion, and make sure that motion makes a semblance of sense. So like in this case, I actually need to change, because I didn't like the way that leg was going. I wanted to make it a little bit further up. Also, it helps to just not do everything symmetrical. It would be easy to do this panel symmetrically, have him, split right down the middle, flip over, reverse, copy, paste. But I think it's more interesting and it's funnier and it's more physically just engaging to have it be something different on both sides. So, pretty loose penciling. I'm gonna keep it pretty loose. We'll come in and do all the inking later. Now, as for what it is that he's hitting, also don't forget, normally in this case, you'd want more follow through for the person doing the throw or the hit. In this case, we're keeping it pretty, it's just right there, so you're not gonna see a lot of it, but don't forget that normally you'd want follow through for a character like here. His follow through would be to kind of recover from pulling his arm down that far. In this case, I think I had him hitting like a pinball machine, I think was the thought of what I was doing there. And I kind of dig that, actually, so I think I'm gonna keep it. It's got a little bit of Punisher energy to it. There's kind of that classic Punisher look. I don't even know. This was a huge mistake. I don't know what a pinball looks like, a pinball machine. Also, not really the kind of bar that he would be in. So I'm just gonna ignore that. I do think, what could we have him? Oh yeah, okay, actually this would be great. So let's have him, let's say this is the door. Let's have him kind of pushing through. Actually, we're gonna do a double door. I really should have planned some of this out. Should have thought any of it through, but that's okay. So we're just gonna have him kind of pushing open this double door out. One of the things you want to do, and this is a cool little lesson, one of the things you want to do at the end of each page, or at least I think you should do at the end of each page, is make the reader want to turn the page. There should be little cliffhangers at the end of each page, not necessarily all the time, but there should be things, whether it's a sentence that you want to know the response to, whether it's leaving somebody that you're expecting a dramatic reaction, whatever it is. In this case, it works really well. If you're going to have him being pushed through the doors, you want to know, where's he off to? Where's he going? So you can do that. And then obviously like here, I could just detail, we're going to have the bar come in here, have it detail like, sure, there's some pictures. It seems like kind of a dive bar, so there'd be a bunch of weird pictures on the wall. Maybe a window to this side if you wanted to. Any of those details can really be filled in inking. Again, when you're inking, this is horrible advice if you're not inking your work, because I have inked my work for such a long time / never worked with an actual inker that I have no idea what a real inker would want. I just know what I look for and what I hope for. So there you go. That's the general concept. You can go through and add, we'll probably add some motion lines in the inking for this one, just because it'll be fun. Kind of adds to the heightened sense of the drama. You can come in, get rid of your underlayer there. Make sure that's full. We can get rid of that as well. There you go, make those big again. That's a penciled page. And there you have it, how to pencil a comic book page. This is by no means exhaustive in terms of what there is to say on penciling comic books. If you have more questions, specific questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll either reply to that comment or I'll make a video talking about all of your specific questions, if there are enough of them. Leave your questions below in terms of comic making. I am going to obviously do a video going forward on inking, coloring, and lettering. So other than those, or even questions about those, hit me up. I might do a video at the end of that series. Otherwise, just thanks again for watching. I really appreciate your time. I hope your comic is going well. I hope you're working on a comic. If you're not, you should start working on a comic. And if you're not working on a comic and don't plan to be working on a comic, Hey, look, thanks for the support. I don't understand it, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, how to make comics, how to draw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to do next. Or do none of those things because I am not your dad.